All right, it's now 5:31, so I think we'll start this webinar, start with some introductions while people are still joining us. A warm welcome to all of you to this webinar with our lovely student panel in social sciences. My name is Maria Lindblad, and I work here at Lund University as an international marketing manager, and I will be the host and moderator of the panel today. And this is, of course, a webinar for all of you who are interested in or are already perhaps applying to our programs in social sciences. And we have a very well representation here of all of our programs among the students joining us today, who will be able to share some insights, what it's like from a student perspective to study our programs. A little bit earlier today, we had webinars with the social sciences program staff. If you missed those, there will be recordings out on our website later on, so you can go back and watch those as well if you want the staff perspective also. And we will be focusing on the student perspective today, what it's like as a student studying here at Lund University, specifically in social sciences, on student life, on other student-related questions. If you're joining us but have more application-related questions, please refer to our webinars later this week. On Friday, we will have some how to apply webinars where we will talk about more practical application steps and scholarships and other things that you need to know if you're applying to any of these programs. But today we will focus more on the content and the student life. Please feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A, and we'll try to cover as many as possible of those as we go today. You can also upvote or like questions in the Q&A. So if you see a question that somebody else has asked and you have a similar question, please feel free to like that question, and we will see which questions we need to prioritize. The chat will be disabled, however, so please use the Q&A. All right, I think it's time for us to get started and to introduce our lovely panel. So I will call you out here in the order that I see you on my screen. And Chia-Chin, you're first, actually.
Yeah, nice. Welcome, everyone. My name is Xiaoshen. I'm from China, and I'm in my second year of the master's program in social studies of gender. Yeah.
Thank you. And Laurin? Laurin, can you hear us? You're muted. Oh, there you go.
Hi, I'm sorry. Sorry, my internet connection has been acting a bit funny the last minutes. But hi, everyone. My name is Laurin. I'm from France, and I'm studying.
Oh, froze there again, Laurin. Can you just repeat what you're studying, Laurin?
Hi, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. We lost you for a second there.
Yes, I was saying social anthropology in the second year of master.
Thank you for that. And then we have Gaia.
Yeah, hi everyone, welcome. I'm Gaia, I'm from Slovenia, and I'm doing my master's in psychology. Currently, I'm in second year of the program.
Thank you. And Nana?
Hi, I'm Nana. I'm in my second year of strategic communication. I'm studying a master's program. And I'm from Ghana.
Yeah. Siddhi?
Hi, everyone. My name is Siddhi. I'm from India, and I'm doing my master's program in cultural criminology, and I'm in my second year right now.
Thank you. Alessandra?
Hi, my name is Alexandra. I'm from Ukraine. I'm currently in my second year of International Development and Management program.
Thank you. Abdulhamid?
Hello, everyone. My name is Abdul Hamid. I'm from Nigeria. I'm in my first year studying human geography.
Thank you. And Filippa?
Hi, everyone. I'm Filippa. I am from Malmö, Sweden, so not very far away from Lund. And I'm currently in my second years of the bachelor's program in development studies here in Lund.
Thank you. Great. And I have a first question to all of our panelists. So we're going to go the whole rounds again here. And funnily enough, that same question came in as the first question from our attendees. So that was clearly a question that everybody is wondering. And that is, what made you choose your current program? So how did you find the program in Lund, and why did you choose it? Let's go the other way around. So we start with Philippa this time.
Yes, so for me, I've always known that I kind of wanted to go down the social sciences path, and I was looking into political science programs, but I guess in the end I wanted something that was slightly more unique and with a twist, and so that's why development studies kind of got my attention. And then I knew that I wanted to stay here in Sweden, and I heard great things of Lund, and especially the international environment that it is. And if you connect that with the program, I think that's a very interesting and valuable perspective to gain.
Thank you. Abdulhamid, what about you? How did you end up here?
Yeah, like for my bachelor, I study physical geography, but like I switched to human geography because like we're in a complex climate situation now, and the human agency is becoming more and more complex toward negotiation and finding sustainable ways to like deal with climate change. So that's why I chose human geography.
Thank you. And Alexandra?
So I have my professional experience in project management. So I was looking into management programs. But something important that caught my eye in the program where I currently am is the impact, the sustainable development, which should all be connected towards project we are and programs we are implementing. So I found this bigger purpose in studying development projects and bringing experience of management to it.
Interesting. Thank you. And Siddhi?
So I have a background in sociology and gender, and I wanted to connect sort of gender with crime, and Lund University just sort of popped up on my like the best programs was at Lund University, and I was like, definitely it was one of a kind program across the world, so that's why I chose to come over here.
Thank you. And Nana?
Okay, I have a background in public relations, and public relations does not really have a good reputation. So I wanted to really go beyond just building relationships between organizations and their publics to something more broader. So I decided to look at strategic communication, which is built on several, it's interdisciplinary. So it's built on several other programs. So I searched for the best university, I would say, and I found Lund University as it's still an underdeveloped program, is still under research. So I found that some of the best articles and some of the best researchers were from Lund. So I decided, why not go to the best if I want that?
Great. Thank you, Nana. And Gaia?
Yeah, so for me, I knew I wanted to continue my studies in psychology, and I checked a lot of programs around the world. And the program at Lund University really stood out because the curriculum seemed very diverse, and it covered a lot of different areas and fields in psychology, which is not really the usual thing in master's programs. So that's why I chose Lund.
Thank you. And Laureen?
Yes, sorry for the delay. The internet connection is still playing games here. But yeah, I took a bachelor in social anthropology back home in France, and I wanted to broaden my perspective and see how that was done in other countries. And the student was a kind of a dream of mine to discover. So yeah, I wanted to see how anthropology was done here.
Thank you. And Chao-Chin?
Yeah, so for me, I think I'm just always really interested in gender topics, but at first I didn't know that there are actual gender studies programs. When I was choosing the master's program, I looked through a lot of programs in Europe because I always wanted to come to Europe. And I just see like their gender study program in the Netherlands and then in Lund as well. And what attracted me here specifically is the interdisciplinary and international environment, honestly. And it's just so interesting to see how they are really just welcoming and really open to students in, like for me, I did social work in my bachelor's. So I didn't really have that many like European credits in gender studies, but yeah, gender studies in Lund is just really open to students like me in other disciplines. So that's kind of, yeah, my main reason.
Thank you. It was very insightful and interesting to hear how you all ended up here. I want to continue a little bit with the academic life kind of questions. We start up there and then we will continue on to talk more about student life as well. But I'd like to know, since you all are on different programs, if you could elaborate a little bit on the structure and what a typical week looks like for you on your program in terms of lectures, group work, and your own studies, and just give us an idea of sort of the academic life on your program. We can start a little in another order this time to mix it up a little bit. So Laureen, can you perhaps start? Let's see if we can hear you. Laureen, can we test if we can hear you? You're muted right now.
Yes, sorry, it cut for a second. Yes, but for like the academic, how my program looked like, I think it's really nice because it's a really flexible program in a sense, so you can really decide if you want to focus more on like methodology and theory or want to do an internship, for example. So for me, for example, now, since I'm doing a field work, my schedule is really designed by myself, and it's really something that I appreciate a lot with this program.
Yeah, thank you. Sidi, what does a typical week look like for you in cultural criminology?
Well, in the second year, I have a lot of electives. So it's a mix of group work, seminars, theories. First year looked very different because that was purely based on cultural criminology. So that was more up to theories, applied cultural criminology. But like Lauren also said, now it was for us to do internships, field work, and then just preparing for thesis. So now for the past month or two, it's just been focusing on what you want to do for your thesis. And but yeah, I mean, it's just a mix of everything and it keeps us quite busy.
Yeah. Philippa, what does it look like in the Bachelor's of Development Studies? What's a typical week for you?
So I would say that we typically have like between 2 and 4 lectures a week, and they are 2 hours long. And then the length and the number of them can depend on the seminars or if we have a paper or an exam. And seminars are usually group work, presentation, a discussion or something, sometimes an individual course paper to conclude the seminar. But I'd say in the end, there is a lot of flexibility and a lot of responsibility is put on the students themselves to kind of decide what they want to do with their time and the resources that they are given.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Abdulhamid, what does it look like in human geography?
Yeah, like I said, like in my first year, this is my first semester. So like the typical week is, I like how it's somehow research oriented. Like we have classes, but we have more of seminars where you are to review articles. So you are grouped into groups, you review article, and then you make your presentation in class. You have this interactive session with your lecturer and with your student as well. Like it's really interesting. And at the same time, there is another thing that they do that I like much, like a short break between lectures, in between lectures of 5 minutes, where students can be able to discuss what like the lecturer is discussing in class, to give them an insight into how like what they are saying in real life situations. So it's very interesting. It can be intensive sometimes, but like it's really interesting. Like it's very interactive. I like the interactive nature of classes. So yeah.
Interesting. And Abdulhamid, there is actually a question here from a student who is applying not to human geography, but to human ecology. And since it's a sister program at the department, maybe you know as well, because the question is here also related to what we are just talking about, like how does it look like in terms of the lectures, and what does a typical week look like, and how much are you physically sort of in class? Can you give us some idea with regards to that program as well?
Yeah, I think it's similar, because like we had a lecture together with them. Like the last course we did, we had like a lecture, and the class is merged together. We had the same lectures, the same seminars, like the same classes and everything. So like it's really the same thing. It's just that like the difference is like they are more tilting towards like physical geography, while like we're more of human geography. But like the schedule, the seminar, the lectures, and the group discussions, like is similar. Is the same thing. It's almost the same thing.
Thank you. Nana, what about in strategic communication? What does a week look like for you?
Okay, so it really depends on the course, because some courses are more intense than others. So there are some where we have all the lectures, the seminars, and the workshops earlier on in the course. So maybe the first 2 weeks, we do everything. Then the second 2 weeks, we have group assignments, supervisions, as well as preparing for oral examination and our individual paper. And there are some that we have lectures, assignments all together. But usually we have assignments to submit at the end of the course and a group presentation at the end of the course. So that's how it is like.
Thank you. And Alexandra, what about Lumid?
Well, first I would want to say that it's like full-time job. So the studies is like literally 8 hours a day, even sometimes more, depending on the intensity. The program is structured in the way that first year is fully theoretical and practical in the classroom on campus. But the second year, which I'm now, has distance course, which is aimed at students to gain practical experience in internship. And most of internships are full-time job. And in addition to that, you have also to deliver some assignments and have some group meetings and also meetings with your supervisor. And the last semester will be the master thesis, which is also self-controlled in terms of timing. So you have to just be a good time manager to deliver the thesis in time and to spread the work during the semester so you can manage it. So I would say that the first year was super intense. The first half year, I spent like 9 to 10 hours a day for studies, except for weekends, which is a good learning from Sweden, that you have to have this study life balance and study only 5 days a week and then have 2 days to rest. So yeah, so this is what I experienced.
Thank you for sharing that. Gaia, is it intense also in the psychology program?
Not so intense as it is for Alexandra, but yeah, I would say that for us, it really depends from the course to course. There is not a lot of like typical classes where teacher would only talk and we students would listen, but there is a lot of the seminars or lab days where we first listen to the lecture and then we debate, like reflect, critically think about what we learned. There is also quite a lot of empirical work in my program. So you're doing research and then writing a paper. And that is like a lot of time management, self-time management. But yeah, so it's a lot of also group work, I would say. So yeah, very, very different.
Yeah.
It doesn't get boring, definitely.
Lots of variation there. Thank you. Chao-Chin, what about gender studies?
Yeah, so for my program, it really depends on whether it's a theory course or it's a method course. For our theory course, the schedule is pretty much the same. It's like 2 lectures or 3 lectures for the first half of the week. And then we have a lot of individual reading, just super intense. And then after that, we have group work to just basically talk about what we have read and what are our opinions and reflections. And then doing seminars is when I feel like teachers are pretty much blended into the background, and students are really taking the stage of like just controlling the whole seminar and basically talk about all the theories, and then have all this kind of reflections on real life cases as well. And then for method course is actually super intense. Like for our first method course, we have this huge group assignment that we're just constantly working on it. And our seminars, we're just talking about our project, and our progress is like, yeah, a hell of a course, but we survived, so it's all right. And for other method courses, I think in the next semester, like in the spring semester, we have a lot of opportunities to choose which method course we want to engage with. So there are a lot of just freedom in terms of this kind of courses, and you can have, yeah, a lot of space to navigate what you want.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I think that gave us a very good overview. One thing that we know that students are always interested in, of course, and we see that in the questions coming here too, is some practical experience, both, of course, to build some experience for your future career after studies, but also just to mix that up with your academic life. So I would like to ask, and you can raise your hand if you want to answer, because we won't have time to go through the whole round again. But do you have any practical aspects of your program, either like an internship or other practical parts? Or perhaps if you have found an internship outside of your program, or even a part-time job, or any kind of practical experience that you would like to share. Alexandra, we can start with you.
Yeah, so the program International Development and Management has mandatory internship. So it's no elective choice. It's the short semester, so you have to bring your theoretical knowledge to practical experience in development field. So this is what I have done through this semester, and I'm finally finished and happy with that. It's amazing opportunity for most of the students because a lot of organizations, especially in international development, they know about this requirement of universities, so they are open to propose any opportunities. Most of such internships are unfortunately unpaid, but there are some also opportunities which you can find out which could be paid. As for the job, the full-time job is impossible to do, I would say, within the studies, but the part-time job is an opportunity. I did find part-time job for summer and also for a couple of months during autumn, which are taking only a few hours a week, because otherwise you won't manage to have a lot of responsibilities on yourself. A lot of my classmates managed to have part-time job during first year also, but it brings overwhelming feelings. So it's just up to you how you can manage your time and how you feel during that. When it comes the pressure of studies and the pressure of work opportunities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Alexandra, for sharing that. Nana.
So with strategic communication, we try to always have some sort of practicals. After we have studied the theory, we are given the opportunity to practice it. So we have like role playing in class, where a lecturer can pretend to be a government official, a journalist or something, and you're supposed to pitch to them. And it's not, at that moment, it's not your lecturer, it's actually a journalist, because they are acting like journalists. And sometimes for instance, we had the opportunity to actually solve a real life issue with Malmo Stad, where we were provided with some issues they were having in their communication department, and we had to solve that and pitch to the communication manager. Then we have simulations where we create crisis and handle crisis. So you have to create an actual crisis, and you have to write press releases, you have to hold conferences. So in strategic communication, you have the opportunity to practice every theory that you learn. And when it comes to working, well, I chose not to work in my first year because I was familiarizing myself with every single thing. And I thought it would be too much for me to handle. But this second year, I actually have a part-time job, which takes just a couple of hours a week. So depending on who you are as a person and how much workload you have, you will find a way to balance it. But you should make sure that your studies come first. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Nana. Is anyone else wants to share any experience in terms of internship or anything that they have done either as a part of a program or outside of the program? Chao-Chin.
Yeah, so like for our course, we actually in the third semester, we can have the freedom to choose internships or fieldwork or elective courses or exchange studies. And at first I want to choose internships, but I kind of underestimate how competitive the Swedish job market is. So yeah, I do have a recommendation for everyone who want to look for this kind of practical experience. Just start as early as possible. Just like once you're enrolled in the program, start looking for opportunities. And what I did for this semester is that I look for volunteer experiences first, and then I have opportunities to land in this kind of part-time experience. So yeah, I would say it's not impossible, but you need to actively engage in this process and actively look for new opportunities that's opening up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And a couple of more here, academic questions before we move on to more student life kind of questions. Many of the programs, as you have, some of you have mentioned already, have a flexible third semester where you can either study abroad or do an internship or do elective courses. So we have a question here related to what your thoughts have been when it comes to your third semester. Some of you have already in it. Some of you maybe have done it or have it ahead of you. But regardless, what is kind of your plans and what has been your thought process in terms of selecting? You were just talking about it, Chao-Chin, like, should I do an internship? Should I do electives? And if so, what's most useful? Does anybody want to share some advice or what their own thought process around this sort of free semester?
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah, go for it.
So we also have these opportunities. You can do an internship, you can do an exchange, or you can take an elective. So I actually wanted to do an internship, but then I also looked at all the other programs that was available. We had a program like digital media, public affairs, and artificial intelligence. So I figured that in the current world that we live in, artificial intelligence is something that will be beneficial to me as a communication person. So it was a tough choice letting go of an internship, but I believe that I will find a job anyway after school is over, but I may not have the opportunity to learn artificial intelligence like I have now. So I should take what I have now. So I decided to take an elective and choose artificial intelligence and hopefully get an internship or a job after school. So that was how I weighed it.
Thank you for those insights, Nana. Sidi, you had something to share there too.
Yeah, so as Chao-Chin had also shared that you have to actually actively look for an internship right when you either come to Sweden, or if you have already made up your mind that you need to go for an exchange study. So you need to plan way in advance. One other thing that I focused on, because I wanted to do internship as well, was that for my course, I needed to go into the field. And since I didn't know the language very well, so, that was a barrier for me. So I tried to look for some English speaking internships, like in think tanks and NGOs in Sweden. I didn't get them, or they weren't actively recruiting that time. So I did opt for electives, but then also in the electives, you get a wide range of options. So it's not like it's your last resort. You can always benefit from these courses as well.
Thank you so much, Sidi. Gaia.
Yeah, so at psychology program, we don't have like a mandatory internship or anything, but that also that just wanted to show that that doesn't have to stop you to find like maybe in your master thesis, maybe you can do an external collaboration with a certain company or something. So there are also other options for you to start getting yourself like building yourself a career, even if there is not a mandatory internship.
Thank you. And Chartin?
Yeah, I just had some other reflections. Like, if you want to continue to do like PhD studies and want to build your professional experiences in this kind of research work, then I think it's definitely good to have more experiences in courses. But like for internships, a lot of companies and organizations, they know that students have this opportunity to do internship. So they may have this like requirement that you have to be a student to do internship. So if you want to look for this kind of really junior role and this kind of internship position after your program, then that can actually be harder. So I would suggest you, if you want to build professional experiences and if you want to look for a job in Sweden, then it's definitely good to look for internship experiences when you are actually a student. Yeah.
Thank you so much. One more academic question here before we move on to some other questions. And this one was specifically for Laurin, actually. So there's somebody interested in your program, and they're asking here what the environment is like while attending the courses, if debates are frequent or not, and how they are managed considering the number of people attending. And they're also asking if you have encountered what kind of future job possibilities or experiences in your field that you can see or that you have encountered during your studies in Lund. This is for Laurin. Yeah. If you can hear us. Let's see if Laurin is with us. Perhaps no.
I'm sorry, unfortunately, I didn't hear the first part of your question.
Yeah, so the question was a little bit around the environment while attending the courses, if you have debates and how they are managed considering the number of people attending, and also if you have
exactly.
Regarding...
So the first thing.
Oh, sorry. I think there is some overlap there with your internet, Laurin. Perhaps you can type an answer, Laurin, to this question from Letizia that was for you, and we will continue on with some other questions in the meantime. There is an open question here about Lund, actually, and just a good way to warm up into our student life questions. So there's an open question to our panelists. What do you like most about Lund, and how is it to live there in Sweden? So we'll let you once again raise your hands, anyone who wants to share their experience about what life is like here in Lund and Sweden. Sidi.
So I'm so glad that you asked that question, because we all had that question before coming to Lund, because we had heard that, you know, it is an academic city, but you get to meet so many international students from students across various backgrounds, even if they're not studying social sciences. You know, they're just like in everywhere, in each part of Lund, they are there. Coming from India, coming from an international country, for us, it was very different, like environment-wise, culture-wise, and even like settling down in Lund. It wasn't very long, like it took us maybe just a month, but it was like the people are very nice over here, like in considerably all of Sweden. I haven't been, but in Lund, I can tell you people are very nice, people are very helpful. So if you are having some doubts or questions of moving here, I think you should just they should just disappear, because it's very friendly and it's actually very student friendly as well. So
thank you, Sidi. Abdulhamid, you also wanted to add?
Yeah, like I said, I'm human geography, so I'm very passionate about climate studies and climate change. And like, I find it very interesting how like the city is climate conscious, you know, like this secondhand shop, like you take walks, you take bike, you know, and like the first time I came, like I was given a bag by Lund Nation. So like I didn't use it. When I went to the store, like I bought my groceries at the checking point, like it was a shock for me because I was thinking like I will be given like a bag to like, I was asked to like pay for this. So like, I was like very like, the next time I took my bag with me. So whenever I'm going for shopping, like I took my bag, like it's very climate conscious. And I really like how is it done here?
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Anyone else wants to share anything about their experience? Alessandra?
Well, I do live in Malmö, the city next to Lund. It's just like 15 minutes by train, which is a bit bigger than Lund. So I enjoyed the magic of student town only when coming to classes. But what I do love in general in living in Sweden is the quietness and the nature around, which is like open for everyone. So you have tons of parks, tracks which you can enjoy just simply walking and enjoying the nature, and the quietness in forests is something, I mean, really amazing.
Thank you. We have a question here, I think for anyone but Filippa, because it's about learning Swedish. And I think Filippa, you already spoke Swedish before, but any of you other guys here, have you taken any Swedish classes? And we also have a question here, if it has helped you at all in your studies to study some Swedish as well. Does anybody want to share any experience on that? Nana.
Okay, I started taking Swedish classes last year. And I mean, I always say that I will never get lost on the train, because when the tracks are changing and everything, when it is said, I can understand that part. But it helped me. But what happened was that the classes just became too much for me with my school. So I had to let it go. But then I realized I actually really don't need to learn Swedish to be able to live in Sweden, because people speak English here. When you tell them, hey, I'm sorry, I can't speak Swedish, they will change to English to speak with you. So you don't really need to know it. But learning a bit of Swedish also helped me in a way, because it is easier going to the grocery store. It is easier not getting lost on the train and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that certainly helps to not get lost on the train. Gaia, what is your experience with the Swedish language?
Yeah, so I also kind of started, then I didn't have time and I stopped. But yeah, I would say that, like you said, Nana, you don't need to speak Swedish because everyone does speak English. However, I would say that still in social activities, if you are surrounded by Swedish people, it does help that you do speak some language. For example, for me, I'm part of a swimming team and I'm actually the only international one. And I learned quite a lot from them actually to now I'm integrated, but of course, everyone speaks English as well. But yeah, I would just say that it doesn't hurt, but also if you don't speak, it's not a problem.
Siti, what is your experience?
So I have learned a bit of Swedish, but only through online channels. But I will actually like to suggest that if you already know that you want to settle in Sweden, or if you want to do your PhD over here, then as soon as you get to learn, you should enroll in the SFP classes, because they take time. There's some batches and there's a long waiting line for them. So I would suggest that. And I actually have a friend who did the SFP classes and has now found an excellent job in Sweden because of his language skills. So it might be helpful if you just start from the beginning.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that's a good point. So it's not really needed for your studies, but definitely could be a good idea for the long term. If you're looking for work or if you want to settle in Sweden, you'll have more options if you speak a little bit of Swedish as well. Well, Gaia, you were already talking a little bit about it, so I wanted to use that as a segue to get into student life. You were talking about some activities, you were on a swimming team and so on. So please, if any of the panelists would like to share a little bit, how do you get involved if you come to Lund outside of the academic life? What can you do? What's unique about the student life in Lund? And what are your experiences and how did you get involved? Who would like to share a little bit about student life? Filippa.
Yes, so for me, I think like one of the first like introductions to student life in Sweden, at least for bachelors, I'm guessing it might change for master programs, but are the orientation weeks, which usually are a very fun way to at least gather with your classmates and kind of get together. And then after those weeks end, I feel like that kind of transcends into like a very natural way of like finding your way around Lund. Me and my friends, we really enjoy the nations, which I guess you could very easily explain as like social clubs kind of, where students can meet and they offer food, they do sports events, they do other types of festivities, just like a way kind of to gather students and like find funny ways to do things together, I guess. So I think nations, at least speaking from my experience of the student life in Lund, I think nations has been a really, really big part of that. But obviously there are other great things, which I'm thinking that other people can explain.
I'm sure all of our panelists here have some experience of that as well. Thank you, Filippa. Gaia.
Yeah, I would also say for me, it was the nations, but also like these introduction weeks that we had. Also, for example, in my program, there is a social group that organizes actually like a novice week, two weeks of novice activities. I don't know how it is with other programs, but at psychology program, that's a thing. And then you can get to know your fellow students. You easily integrate into the new environment. And apart from that, yeah, then you have a lot of other clubs, like sports clubs, or like you can join the specs. I don't know, it's called, how is that called in English? The theater, student theater things.
Musical theater, yeah.
Yeah. There is a lot of activities that actually can help you to build your social relations here in Lund. And it's, in my case, this was a very surprising thing because that's not how it is when I was studying back home.
That's interesting. It was very different for you as well. And I think one thing that is quite unique here in Sweden and at Lund is that everything is driven by the students themselves and not sort of organized for students, but actually by students. So I think that's an interesting aspect. And we actually have a question here, a specific question, which is, are there any politically active students in Lund? And are there any political movements coming from the bottom, that is from the students and not from the institution? And does anybody here in the panel have any experience with any student politics or any other associations or unions, perhaps? Chowchi?
Yeah, so because I'm doing gender studies and I feel like our classmates are usually really political. And yeah, we have really close association with Smallest Nation. And actually, because Smallest Nation is kind of a little bit too political, so it's not part of Student Lund anymore, unfortunately. But they do organize a lot of this kind of panels and seminars and try to educate the general public about a lot of discussions about like gender diversity and socialism maybe and some other political topics as well. And we also have some kind of marches and parades going on during Pride Week and during Women's International Day. So yeah, if you want to look for that, you can go to Smallest Nations website.
Thank you. I want to get into a little bit with regards to living, and I mean like accommodation and housing and the cost of it, but also what options there are, and what if you can share something about how you found housing and what kind of housing you have, and anything you can share that you remember that you were wondering perhaps when you were a prospective student or worrying about. So if anybody can share in the panel a little bit where you live, what your rent is, just so that people can get an idea of what to expect in terms of housing. Anyone in the panel? Sidi.
Okay, so since I'm an international student, I was guaranteed housing by the by Lund University, and we were given a choice to list our preferences, up to 5 preferences, and it also actually depends how early you apply, and that's the basis for you to get your first preference. I got Cluster Garden Student House, which is a studio apartment. Wasn't my first preference, but it was a very beautiful accommodation south of Lund. I think I didn't find it very comfortable there because it was, like I said, studio apartment. I didn't know, it got a bit lonely way too fast. So I did apply for the AF First Added queue as well, which has a lot of student accommodations across the city. And now I'm staying in a corridor room with 11 more people. And it's really amazing because now I stay in northeast part of Lund called Delphi, and it's really amazing over here with so much greenery around and a lot of people around. So yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you for sharing that. And Chao-Chin?
My answer goes a lot back to City's answers, but I also want to mention that LU Accommodations website, they actually offer like this whole map of Lund and where each housing is located. And they also offer this kind of like housing prices comparison. So if you want to look for something that's like strictly related to your range of housing prices, then you can go look for LU Accommodations website as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Nana.
Okay, so I don't live in Lund. I live in Helsingborg, and we don't have a lot of student housing when it comes to LU. We have about 3, which is where I live, Forutopsgatan. Then we have Sodagatan, and we have this other corridor room. So I live in a studio, and it was my first choice. And I chose this place because it's closer to school. It's like 7 minutes away from school. I wanted to get the opportunity to wake up late, not super early, to catch the train and commute. So I live very close. But there are also the municipality here offers students some other housing. So some students live in LU for maybe the first year or the first couple of months. Then they move to another student housing, which has more of what City said about having more corridor rooms, more student functions and stuff happening there. But I wanted to live at a place where there were locals, because my building is not just for students, it also has locals. So that's why I'm still here. I love the mix here. Yeah.
Thank you. And does anyone like to share a little bit about the cost as well, like both the rent, but perhaps also in general, if you can give us an idea of, how much you spend per month, or roughly what kind of budget you have, because we do know that while we have some guidelines on the website and there is a required amount in terms of, students coming from outside of the EU and so on, it's still good to get some understanding of a typical budget directly from you who are living here. So if anybody would like to share either their rent or maybe like their living cost, just so we get some idea. Alexandra.
So I do live in apartment, and I mean, this differs a bit from accommodations for students, and the difference is also in price, But to compare, so the rent of 1-bedroom apartment where you have a living room and kitchen, bathroom, obviously, and the bedroom is about 9,000 crowns. And it is including a lot of utilities except for internet and electricity, which is common here in Sweden. I would say that I'm lucky because I can share this cost, and like 2 people can run this place, I would say, in normal terms. As for spendings per month, I'm lucky because I'm receiver of a Swedish Institute scholarship, which is currently states at 11,000 of Swedish crowns per month, which are good, really good for living, and is more than enough to cover all the needs you have, and even to enjoy some small Swedish trips around Skåne region. So it's a great way and a great, type how you can measure how much actually money you need. But you can do less if you know how to go to good shops and find cheaper products.
Yeah, thank you, Alexandra. That's some good insights there for our student budget. Siddhi.
Okay, so like I said, I was staying in a studio apartment earlier that the rent was high, and I think it's going to, I think everyone knows that we have inflation and like the rent prices are increasing all over across Sweden as well. But while I was staying there, I realized like the first 2 months after coming to Sweden, my budget went way overboard. So I had to learn how to budget my monthly expenses. I would like to suggest that, you just take student discounts on grocery stores. You download the student there are a lot of student apps that give you offers on H&M stores like H&M and across the city. After I shifted to a corridor room, my budget, like my rent went way less. Now I'm, I think, paying around roughly 3,800 SEK. But if I manage my groceries and all, it still comes down to 1,000 SEK per month, and I still have a little bit of budget to go for a cup of coffee or for drinks out with friends. So then it depends how you want to enjoy life.
Thank you. Nana.
Okay, I'm also a scholarship beneficiary, and I get 11,000 as well. And my apartment is already finished, so it's a bit on the high side. Is depending on the month, is between 5,400 to 5,800 a month. But there are other options here, but you have to finish the whole apartment yourself. And I didn't want to do that. But if you want to, you can actually go to the secondhand store, or you can buy from other students. And these apartments actually have a place where we call the magic room, where students leave some items they don't use anymore. So you can find a chair, a table, a bed, things like that over there, and use it to finish your room. And if you want to live on a budget, what I do is I have actually signed up to some of the stores like Hemshop, and they send me the discount for every week. So I usually buy items in bulk during the discounted days, so that I wouldn't have to buy it when it's expensive or something like that. And I try to eat like once or twice, once a week or 3 times a month, depending on how much money I have left. But depending on how you live, you can actually save a lot if you cook yourself.
Yes, very good hack there, cooking. So if anyone who's joining us does not know how to cook, please learn before coming to Sweden, because it's a very good idea to buy in bulk and cook and freeze, and then you can microwave it all around campus to have for lunch. We only have a few more minutes to go, but I do want to get to one more thing that we also had some questions about earlier here in the Q&A, and that is your future, what your thoughts are in terms of job opportunities once you finish your program, and your thoughts if you would like to stay in Sweden, and what you see basically as the career options, your future options after you graduate from your specific programs. Does anybody have some thoughts there they would like to share with the attendees? because we know that everybody's interested in that. What will I be? What can I do once I finish my master's or bachelor's? Gaia.
Okay, yeah, so I'm now in this time of what am I gonna do with my life after my studies?
Yeah.
That's a very relatable question. Yeah, so for me, I decided to I will try to stay here in Sweden. So yeah, I think with finishing masters in psychology, you have a lot of ways that you can go in. I decided to focus more on like human resources jobs. So I will try to find a job in this kind of field. And yeah, I'm already working on it. Also, I'm doing an external collaboration with my master thesis. So that's also like one step towards it. And yeah, trying to learn Swedish as well again.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you. Abdulhamid, what are your plans and what options do you see here after your program?
Yeah, like I know I'm just starting, but like I've seen a lot of opportunities, especially in the sustainable transition, because now like the Scandinavian countries, especially Sweden, like is trying to implement the climate policy to transition from fossil fuel to more energy efficient. So especially there are a lot of NGOs and a lot of organizations that are tilting toward that. So yeah, like I think I would like to stay also to explore opportunities here as well. So yeah.
Thank you. And Sidi?
So yeah, like Gaia said, that we are most of us are in our approaching our thesis semester. So now we actively need to think about what we need to do for the future. So for me, I have always been interested in policy work, social policies. So for my field, it's mostly, I've heard that people go into a PhD. Personally, I'm not interested in a PhD, and I would rather jump into working with a think tank or like an international development bank and NGOs to work around gender and crime, because that's also my background. But like, again, like I would like to suggest, because applications take a long time. So, you have to start thinking about what you want to do from the third semester onwards. And then either from February or March, you need to start applying to a lot of places because it takes time.
Yeah, that's good advice as well. Start networking early and start planning early. And Chao-Chin, you actually had a specific question even for you here regarding this, what kind of job you would like to see or like to have related to your subject. So it's great that you raised your hand there too.
Yeah, because like for my program, I guess it's indeed a really niche and really narrow area. So yeah, usually people go to like PhD studies and educational settings or NGOs, that kind of stuff. But I just had this advice for everyone that you don't really need to limit yourself in your master's program. Because like I feel like for job opportunities, they're really looking for the skills you have and the experiences you have. Because I do know there are also Chinese students in my program, and they're actually working in tech and business development, that kind of stuff. So there's always opportunities, but you need to look early and you need to know what kind of skills they want from you if you want to apply for that specific job. And yeah, as like other people said, it's always good to start networking as early as possible because connection is a really big thing in Sweden. Yeah.
Thank you. So we're out of time. It's 6:29 here in Sweden. So basically just a few seconds to go. Does anyone have any final word they want to send our attendees off with? Any final advice or word of encouragement or anything else? Just 10 seconds. Yes, Sidi, you raised your hand.
Just want to welcome you guys to Learn next year. And if you have any more questions, you can reach any of us on the Unibuddy platform. regarding student life and all, we'll be happy to answer your questions.
Perfect. I think that sums it up perfectly. Just the city said, our student ambassadors are available all the time. So please do take the opportunity to chat with them. And there will be more webinars later on as well, certainly after admission and so on. So you will have, where you will have more sort of burning questions regarding housing and student life and I'm sure, and other things, I'm sure. Thank you so much to all the panelists, and thank you so much to the attendees, and we look forward to seeing you all in Lund in the near future. So thank you so much for today, and have a lovely evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.